The Thunny and the Dolphin. A thunny, being pursued by a dolphin, swam for safety into shallow water. Seeing the dolphin still after him, he came further inshore and was thrown by the waves high and dry on the sand. The dolphin, eager in pursuit and unable to stop himself, was also stranded. The thunny, beholding the dolphin in the same condition as himself, said, "Now I die with pleasure, for I see my persecutor involved in the same fate." The Partridge and the Cocks. A certain man, having taken a partridge, cut his wings and put him into a little yard where he kept game cocks. The cocks were not at all civil to the newcomer, who at first put his treatment down to the fact of his being a stranger. When, however, he found that they frequently fought and nearly killed each other, he ceased to wonder that they did not respect him. The Hunted Beaver. The tail of the beaver was once thought to be of use in medicine, and the animal was often hunted on that account. A shrewd old fellow of the race, being hard pressed by the dogs, and knowing well why they were after him, had the resolution and the presence of mind to bite off his tail and leave it behind him, and thus escaped with his life. The Oak and the Reeds. A violent storm uprooted an oak that grew on the bank of a river. The oak drifted across the stream and lodged among some reeds. Wondering to find these still standing, he could not help asking them how it was they had escaped the fury of a storm which had torn him up by the roots. "We bent our heads to the blast," said they, "and it passed over us. You stood stiff and stubborn till you could stand no longer." The Fox and the Tiger. A skillful archer, coming into the woods, directed his arrows so well that the beasts fled in dismay. The tiger, however, told them not to be afraid, for he would singly engage their enemy and drive him from their domain. He had scarcely spoken when an arrow pierced his ribs and lodged in his side. The fox asked him slyly what he thought of his opponent now. "Ah," replied the tiger, writhing with pain, "I find that I was mistaken in my reckoning." The Fox and the Countryman. A fox, having been hunted hard and run a long chase, saw a countryman at work in a wood, and begged him to help him to some hiding place. The man said he might go into his cottage, which was close by. He was no sooner in than the huntsman came up. "Have you seen a fox pass this way?" said they. The countryman said no, but pointed at the same time towards the place where the fox lay. The huntsman did not take the hint, however, and made off again at full speed. The fox, who had seen all that took place through a chink in the wall, thereupon came out, and was walking away without a word. "Why, how now?" said the man. "Haven't you the manners to thank your host before you go?" Yes, said the fox. "If you had been as honest with your finger as you were with your tongue, I shouldn't have gone without saying goodbye." The One-Eyed Doe. A doe that had been one-eyed used to graze near the sea, so that she might keep her blind eye towards the water, while she surveyed the country and saw that no hunters came near with the other. It happened, however, that some men in a boat saw her, and as she did not perceive their approach, they came very close, and one who had a gun fired and shot her. In her dying agony she cried out, "Alas, hard fate, that I should receive my death wound from the side whence I expected no ill, and be safe on that where I looked for most danger." Aesop at play. An Athenian once found Aesop joining merrily in the sport of some children. He ridiculed him for his want of gravity, and Aesop, good-temperedly, took up a bow, unstrung it, and laid it at his feet. "There, friend," said he, "that bow, if kept always strained, would lose its spring and probably snap. Let it go free sometimes, and it will be the fitter for use when it is wanted." The Thief and the Boy. A boy sat weeping upon the side of a well. A thief, happening to come by just at the same time, asked him why he wept. The boy, sighing and sobbing, showed a bit of cord, and said that a silver tankard had come off from it, and was now at the bottom of the well. The thief pulled off his clothes and went down into the well, meaning to keep the tankard for himself. Having groped about for some time without finding it, he came up again, and found not only the boy gone, but his own clothes also, the dissembling rogue having made off with them. The Ass, the Dog, and the Wolf. Aladdin, ass, was jogging along, followed by his tired master, at whose heels came a hungry dog. Their path lay across a meadow, and the man stretched himself out on the turf and went to sleep. The ass fed on the pasture and was in no hurry at all to move. The dog alone, being gnawed by the pains of hunger, found the time pass heavily. "Pray, dear companion," said he to the ass, "stoop that I may take my dinner from the pannier." The ass turned a deaf ear and went on cropping away the green and tender grass. The dog persisted, and at last the ass replied, "Wait, can't you, till our master wakes? He will give you your usual portion without fail." Just then, a famished wolf appeared upon the scene and sprang at the throat of the ass. "Help, help, dear Towser," cried the ass. But the dog would not budge. "Wait till our master wakes," said he. "He will come to your help without fail." The words were no sooner spoken than the ass lay strangled upon the sod. The Fox and the Ape. Upon the decease of the lion, the beasts of the forest assembled to choose another king. The ape played so many grimaces, gambols, and antic tricks that he was elected by a large majority, and the crown was placed upon his head. The fox, envious of his distinction, seeing soon after a trap baited with a piece of meat, approached the new king and said with mock humility, "May it please your majesty, I have found on your domain a treasure to which, if you will design to accompany me, I will conduct you." The ape thereupon set off with the fox, and on arriving at the spot, laid his paw upon the meat. Snap went the trap, and caught him by the fingers. Mad with shame and the pain, he reapproached the fox for a false thief and a traitor. Reynard laughed heartily, and going off, said over his shoulder with a sneer, "You, a king, and not understand a trap." The Power of Fables. Demades, a famous Greek orator, was once addressing an assembly at Athens on a subject of great importance, and in vain tried to fix the attention of his hearers. They laughed among themselves, watched the sports of the children, and in 20 other ways showed their want of concern in the subject of the discourse. Demades, after a short pause, spoke as follows: "Ceres one day journeyed in company with the swallow and an eel. At this there was marked attention, and every ear strained now to catch the words of the orator. The party came to a river," continued he. "The eel swam across, and the swallow flew over." He then resumed the subject of his harangue. A great cry, however, arose from the people. And Ceres? And Ceres? Cried they. What did Ceres do? Why, the goddess was, and indeed she is now, replied he, mightily offended that people should have their ears open to any sort of foolery and shut to words of truth and wisdom. The goatherd and the goats. During a snowstorm in the depth of winter, a goatherd drove his goats for shelter to a large cavern in a rock. It happened that some wild goats had already taken refuge there. The man was so struck by the size and look of these goats, and with their superior beauty of his own, that he gave to them alone all the food he could collect. The storm lasted many days, and the tame goats, being entirely without food, died of starvation. As soon as the sun shone again, the strangers ran off and made the best of their way to their native wilds. The goatherd had to go goatless home, and was well laughed at all by his folly. The dove and the ant. An ant, going to a river to drink, fell in and was carried along in the stream. A dove pitied her condition and threw him into the river a small bough, by means of which the ant gained the shore. The ant afterwards, seeing a man with a fowling piece aiming at the dove, stung him in the foot sharply, and made him miss his aim, and so saved the dove's life.